And now I will call on Honorable Nuckcheddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I will first of all like to thank the Honourable Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development for his budget. I seize this opportunity to also congratulate him for his recent award that he got as the best Minister of Finance in Africa, just a few hours before he read his budget speech in this August Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is the third time that I am participating on a debate on budget speech, and every time I have been impressed, like several of our fellow citizens, by the measures the Honourable Minister of Finance brings, especially in such difficult moments. Mr. Speaker, sir, the measures not only bring hopes, but also show that if you got determination, if you are part of a caring government, then no crisis can be a hurdle on your way to bring prosperity to the nation. Late Abdul Kalam said, I quote, that confidence may not bring success, but gives us power to face any challenge in life, end of quote. As the Honourable Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development announced that our government has several objectives like increasing our GDP, reducing our unemployment, boosting our exports of goods and services, increase the investment, increase the FDI, increase tourist arrivals, reduce the public sector debt. I would also like to thank the majority of our population who understand the situation as opposed to a few handfuls who are always on the roads and tarnishing the image of our country in the most anti-patriotic manner. When you listen to people outside, you can see that lots of people wanted this government to fail. The majority of the people have acclaimed this budget as it is a blending of social and economic aspects. This government has done marvels, which others only talked about and never did anything to put such measures into practice, as they were more concerned about feeling they're safe, and others were dreaming of how to become the Prime Minister at the earliest. These marvels, Mr. Speaker, sir, the members of the opposition are calling it an illusion. It seems that they are themselves in a perpetual illusion, as they can't believe or don't want this government to do good. They don't want the country to progress. Luckily, Mr. Speaker, sir, a country is not run by ill wishes, but by determination and a desire to succeed. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are living in a period of crisis. And since the beginning of the 21st century, we have been witnessing several disruptions, and one more severe to the other. We are all in search of the resilience which will provide the ability to deal with adversity, withstand shocks, and gradually adapt to disruptions. If we analyze the different disruptions, we will see that each evolves differently from the others, but many of them have overlapping consequences and not completely understood at the time of impact. This budget sets out the roadmap for our island to adapt and thrive in a post-pandemic world and moving towards a self-sufficient and more inclusive society. The measures announced by the Honourable Minister move towards ensuring a strong and vibrant economy, and this is what we need at this moment, as it is our duty to raise the standard of living, provide good jobs, and provide opportunities to vulnerable groups. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are all here today because our constituencies elected us to represent them in this House, so that we can work for the betterment of our country. In a few years, we will be celebrating the 60th anniversary of our independence, and our major challenge remains the prosperity of our country. Since this government is in power, it has been sowing seeds. Whether you want a garden or something for the future, you have to sow seeds. Seeds, S-E-E-D-S. This government is sowing the seeds for an inclusive and modern society. SEEDS here, Mr. Speaker, sir, I mean the S for the security of food, E, energy and environment, E for education, D, development of infrastructure, and S, social partnership and senior citizens. This is a seed that this government has been showing since 2014, and we will continue to do that beyond 2024. Mr. Speaker, sir, the budget is about enhancing the economic growth, resilience to future shocks, transition to a sustainable and inclusive development model, and investing in our people. Mr. Speaker, sir, today I have in mind those vulnerable people who less than a decade ago were getting a pension of about 3,000 rupees, and now they will be getting 10,000 rupees. Mr. Speaker, sir, several of our honorable members of the opposition raised the point that the basic retirement pension was not increased in 2020 and 2021, and our senior citizens were not compensated for the inflation. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, the pension in Mauritius is a prepaid pension, unlike the salaries and wages which are post-paid. Similarly, in December 2019, just after we were elected, the government increased the pension from 6,210 to 9,000 rupees. That is an increase of about 69%. Had we not suffered from the pandemic, there is no doubt that we would have done more, but the situation was difficult, and actually we are providing an increase which will bring relief to our senior citizens. When you realize that the same people who are criticizing this government in 2014 mentioned that it will be impossible to pay 5,000 rupees per month. This government introduced a minimum wage where our mothers and sisters were being paid 1,500 rupees per month. And at that time, the then Prime Minister did not hesitate to tell the population, I quote, SSU pas fin faire pour don biberon, when ladies were fighting for the right. Today, the same people pretend to be the great defenders of the population. Whilst Mr. Speaker, sir, I condemn the act of some of the members of the police force, I also condemn this double standard of the opposition, who when was the Prime Minister was talking about SSU pas fin faire pour don biberon, and today pretend to be shocked with the clips in circulation. It is this government, during the most difficult time, took measures to avoid massive layoff of 100,000 people, avoid the economic bankruptcy and social chaos. When you go back in the year 2009, 2010, just after the economic crisis in Europe, and read the honorable members of Labour Party, what they were saying on our economy, because at that time they were in power, I wonder how they will have reacted in this situation. The situation which the world is facing since 2020, Mr. Speaker, sir, cannot be compared to that of the financial crisis in 2008. At that time, there was a solidarity globally. In 2009, more precisely, on the 2nd of April 2009, the leaders of G20 met in London and they devised a global plan for recovery. Their mission was to bring the world economy out of recession. A sum of $1.1 trillion was made available to boost the global economy. But the COVID-19 pandemic did not show any such solidarity. In fact, all the countries closed their border, tried to contain the virus in their states, tried to make the country COVID safe and COVID free. There was a sort of Cold War on vaccines. Countries started competing against each other on the best vaccine. And when we compare these two situations, we can say that the time of 2008 and 2009, what the then government was calling a tough one was in fact a time when the sky was blue, the sea was blue turquoise and calm. And in that period, the only measure which I recall the Labour Party government brought was a stimulus package. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it was a very special one. It was meant only for those people who were fervent servants of the regime. On top of that, it was given freely, without the need to reimburse that money, without any need to explain how the money was spent, whether it was used to buy Aston Martin, boats, or bungalows. The money given to the friends were never used to bail the business. Hundreds of millions were distributed like it was how they call, as if it was a Bab Kamal. The same people today, Mr. Speaker, sir, are criticizing the MIC loan. The MIC funding is a loan given to firms which will have to be reimbursed, and all the process is done in full transparency. When the Labour Party was in power, the increase in basic retirement pension was only increased by 100 rupees. And while increasing the pension by only 100 rupees, the then Minister of Finance added that this amount far exceeds the pledge to compensate for inflation, and that has never happened before. How unsympathetic they were and still are. Now, when we are providing between 1,000 and 2,000, they are talking of money illusion. They are dividing it by 30 and saying that we are just giving 33 rupees per day. But why did they not divide the 60 rupees increase in the gas cylinder? If you take into consideration, Mr. Speaker, sir, that our senior citizens, they use one gas cylinder for 2 months. And if you divide it by 60 rupees, by the 60 days, it makes only 1 rupee per day. Why don't they divide it by the 60 when it comes to the increase? And now they're dividing it by 30 when it comes to the increase that we are giving to those of our senior citizens. Honorable Xavier Jival mentioned that the government took the commitment to bring the pension to an amount of 13,500, but he should read the full sentence where it is said that the amount of 13,500 will be set by the year 2024. The Honorable Leader of the Opposition, as usual, praised Seychelles and Maldives for increase in the tourist arrival, and also that the currency has reached the pre-COVID level. But let me remind the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, despite that the currency has reached what it has reached, Seychelles was not in a position to pay the end of your bonus like we did here. Not only for the working class, but even our pensioners got their 13th month pay. The war in Ukraine, Mr. Speaker, sir, has raised awareness on the necessity of food security. Farmers will no more be left on their own, but the agricultural production and market information system will provide information so as to allow them to take decisions on cultivation and marketing of the crops. Last time, Honorable Sikyan bought packed susu and so that the price was about 125 rupees. And to curtail owners of the supermarkets selling these locally produced vegetables at such high prices, the population will now be given incentive to produce their susu and brinjal, like the rooftop gardening and new incentive on sheltered farming. The SMEs remain a sector which can enhance our economy, and thus, by broadening the definition of SME, 142,000 enterprises will work hand in hand with the government to support the recovery. We are facing a global shock. Things are happening overseas where we have no control, but the effects are hitting us badly, and we are still managing to improve the purchasing power of the population by subsidies to the tune of 4.2 billion rupees on pain maison, cooking gas, rice, milk, pulses, and the opposition always are looking for the election municipal, so we have extended it to macaroni also. And maybe it also be applied to Lysol, but we must be careful that people don't start drinking Lysol. The income tax rate of 15% will now be decreased to 12.5% for those earning between 53,846 to 75,000. Increase in traveling allowances, deductible from income tax from 11,000 rupees to 20,000 rupees. Increase in basic retirement pension by 1,000 rupees, a measure that will improve the purchasing power of our people. And without forgetting that, it is thanks to the measures of the last two budgets that we can expect the unemployment to decrease by 7.8% from 9.1% a year ago. Our exports of goods and services to reach 169 billion, that is an increase of about 20%. Foreign direct investment to increase by 33% from last year. Tourist arrival to reach 1 million this year. The public sector debt to go down to 87.4%, and several such positive results will appear. Most important, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are preparing our country to be resilient to future shocks. Concerning construction, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to convey my special thanks to the Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development to not listening to the leader of opposition who has been urging to cancel construction projects. I also still don't understand why the members of the opposition are against the M4 highway project. Our island is a small village, but why every time there are projects in the rural areas, they are against it? When it comes to the interchange at Kedi, it's okay. When it comes to Hillcrest, it's okay. But when it comes to Kewal Nagar, then it's not good. I would suggest Honorable Osman Mohammed to learn another phrase in Sanskrit, which says, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, meaning that the whole world is one family. So they should not think that development shall only be in urban areas. It should also be in rural areas. You know, Mr. Speaker, sir, the M4 highway project will start from Fobak. It will go down to the airport to Planmayon. And as far as I know, Fobak is in the constituency number 6, and Planmayon is in constituency number 12. So why is it preventing us from going ahead with this project? Let us go ahead. Once it's completed, Honorable Ganga Pausad can take photo on one end, and Honorable Ramphal on the other end, and publish it on their Facebook. And so what development we are bringing in their constituencies? The social houses, Mr. Speaker, sir, the drains, the roads, the interchanges, are those investments that will make our country productive. For very long, professionals of the construction sector have been requesting for the need to have trained local artisans, and I acclaim the setting up of the Construction Industry Training Council. When we talk of the budget, which is with the people, for the people, Mr. Speaker, sir, we should leave no one behind. And reserving public contracts below 20 million rupees for small contractors is walking the talk. Moreover, the restating of margin of preference is another proof of caring for our people by a caring government. We care for those people who suffer during floods. And as an elected member of the constituency number 9, Flag Bonake, I thank the Minister for the 120 million rupees for the drains projects at Queen Victoria, Poste de Flag, Cité Hibiscus, and at La Source. Several mini-soccer pitch in all parts of the island will be constructed. Modernity is now reaching every corner of Mauritius. While the Minister was reading the budget speech, I received a message from a friend who told me that it's the first time that he heard his village name, Maulasho, in a budget speech. Mr. Speaker, sir, another one, a founder member of MMM, Mr. Nabe Fortino, was also very happy. He phoned me, he said, it's the first time I heard Cité Hibiscus mentioned in the budget. The government has always considered the development of infrastructure not only as a key driver for progress, but a critical determinant for productivity, job creation, and sustainable economic growth. We are improving our road networks, making our roads more fluid, and infrastructure is not just roads and building, it is the sign of improvement of lives. We are tactically planning to address the traffic congestion by modern infrastructure that meets the need of tomorrow, and it is said the road to development begins with roads. We also know, Mr. Speaker, sir, that when it comes to economic growth, investment have a much larger multiplier effect than mere consumption. Infrastructure development contributes to growth and development through several channels. Several countries are looking for such opportunities, but finance has been a major constraint. Whereas here, our government is bringing growth by investing in the infrastructure, as infrastructure is a crucial prerequisite for the success of development policies. Now, when we talk of education, education is not just for someone to read books, get a certificate, and eventually get a job. A caring government is one which motivates students with the capabilities to pursue their education further. And this government is adding 2 additional scholarships in economics in the memory of late Sir Anirudh Jagannath, who, under his prime ministership, took our country to a new height. This caring government, under the difficult situation, is investing in our students, while others cancel the subsidy on SC and HSC exam, snatch breads from the mouths of our children, and today they are talking of not enough measures for the vulnerable groups. It's more than that. Education helps our multi-ethnic population to blend into a Mauritian culture, and education, especially those taught by evening schools, lay much emphasis on our cultural values. And again, I'm very happy that this evening school running Oriental class teachers will have the allocation increased by 1,000 rupees, an increase which was so long awaited. You see, these are the exceptional measures, and that's the reason why L'Express paper wondered if the Honorable Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance were magicians. It's these measures which make L'Express paper count the 103 times that the Honorable Minister was uploaded. However, I am not sure if the 103 times take into consideration the one clapping of Honorable Shakil Mohammed. Talking of L'Express paper, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's a shame that instead of congratulating the government for maintaining the subsidy on rice, they side by those people who are of the opinion that the subsidy on rice is not fair. Moreover, the very next day of the budget speech, the L'Express paper took the comment of Honorable Boulel of Budget Confetti to conclude an article on page 3 in its edition of 8 June 2022. If these people take the budget as a confetti, then yes, it is a budget confetti, as confetti is used to celebrate. Great events and the measures of this budget need a celebration. Before the budget speech, lots of people were predicting all sorts of negative measures. Some were even setting ultimatum, but in fact, the Honorable Minister of Finance gave them what we call in our local language, kutsavat dodo no figure. Why do they not talk of reform in sale by levy, which is proposed so as to save family who find themselves victim of the unfair game going on for so long? The Labour Party, when they were in government, announced an amount of 91 million as a sale by levy solidarity fund, but no one ever saw that money unless it formed part of the 250 million found in a safe at River Walk. At least now I hope the self-proclaimed Mahatma of Belter can at least thank this government and stop his dangerous game of calling for rebellion every day on his Facebook page. The measures announced in the health and wellness side, Mr. Speaker, sir, show that this government who takes lesson from the history are those who don't listen from the history get lost in history. We learn that we must continue to relentlessly improve our public health system. This government is going to recruit 1,354 staff this year in the public health sector. And again, as an MNA of Flag Bonacay, I thank the Honorable Minister of Finance, the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Minister of Health, and the whole of the government, not only for the new Flag Teaching Hospital, but for the CT scan equipment that will be provided at the Flag Hospital. You know, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are government kipaget figure. I listened to Dr. Honorable Omir. I met him outside this house several times, and I know he's a very nice person, just like me and you. But this time I was a bit disappointed. Disappointed, Mr. Speaker, sir. At least he could have seized this opportunity to thank the Minister of Health for saving the life of his leader. When his leader needed health assistance, it was the same Minister of Health who he has been criticizing today, came forward to help him, and today the leader of the Labour Party is enjoying a good health. Thanks to this government, thanks to our Prime Minister, thanks to the Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, sir, this budget is progressive and brings new hopes and opportunities to our people. This budget brings support to strengthen our economy by bringing more investment, more growth, and more jobs. Everyone should have a safe and affordable place to call a home. In the past, it was increasingly out of reach of Mauritians to afford a roof. This government understands that increasing our housing supply will make our country more competitive. Concerning housing, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is a tendency to think only of the 12,000 houses that this government has announced and will stick to the commitment. However, what the population must also understand that apart from these 12,000 houses, the government is using several other mechanisms according to the social status to allow Mauritians to become owner of a house, like the grant to cost a slab. Houses constructed by the NSDC from the year 2015 amounts to 1,397. 1,596 houses of 50 square meters were also constructed by the NSDC since the year 2015. There are 1,623 other houses under construction and some 1,565 in the pipeline. And all these houses will be given to adults, not to kids. Interdit aux mineurs. Measures for individual buying a house, apartment, or land to construct his residence in the financial year 2021-2022 will continue to benefit from a refund of 5% of the cost of the property to a maximum of 500,000. When we are talking of the measures of this budget, we should not forget the measures implemented in the past and that are being maintained. Honorable Utim mentioned that this government has only been announcing the construction of 12,000 houses, but none has been constructed yet. He expressed his inability to understand that the government faced several issues in identifying a plot of land. It's obvious that he can't understand the process, Mr. Speaker, sir, as he has spent all his time in the opposition. He has never been in the government, so he will never understand the process. I understand it must be hard for him to see Honorable Ramanu, Honorable Joel, Honorable Chakori, our Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Obigadu, on this side of the House, sitting on this side of the House and contributing to take our island to a new height while he is still glued on the opposition side and having to bear such frustration. It's by his choice that he has chosen to be on the other side of the House and only criticize whatever good this government is doing. He mentioned about the construction of drains. I am happy to say that in my constituency, several drains projects have been implemented and the inhabitants of number 9 are relieved. I'm talking of inhabitants of Richemont, Poste de Flac, Orgy, Belmore, Isle-Rose, L'Almaty, Quatre-Coco, Bonacay, Cune-Victoria, Saint-Julien, and the list is long, Mr. Speaker, sir. But I know the inhabitants of number 9 are very happy with what we are doing in the constituency to bring them relief. This government understands the importance of rain, and when we invest in drains, what they say? That we are investing in canal. Those who can't differentiate between a canal and drain pretend to be the savior. Listening to the speech of Honorable Utim, I had the impression the Honorable Minister of Finance had to announce measures that they wanted on several occasions, because on several occasions he mentioned that our such and such request was not considered. As yesterday, my friend Honorable Anjeev Ramdani mentioned that the opposition, they just come and put PQs, and once they put the PQs, when we announce measures, it's as if they're measures. Honorable Shakil Mohammed mentioned that we backbenchers, we should be able to come and pinpoint the lacunas of the budget. But Mr. Speaker, sir, I went through the several interventions of Honorable Shakil Mohammed while he was sitting as the third member of constituency number 13 as a backbencher from the year 2005-2010. There is not a single time where he dared to raise his finger at the measures of the then government. He said nothing when NRPT was implemented. He said nothing when interest on saving accounts of kids were taxed. He said nothing when other such measures were implemented. I understand his position, as these were the measures of, like he said, of his Pradhan Mantri, his Pradhan Katori Mantri had control of everything.
You're running out of time.
He can swear, I'm just going to conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir. He can swear, his leader can swear at his female members in public places and do whatever he wants. He was talking of virginité politique. He who amends the laws as a minister so that employers can fire workers with great facility is the one looking for that virginity, but our population have good memories. On this side of the House, we have honorable members whose parents have been a victim of the laws introduced by Shakil Mohammed to ease firing. Yesterday, Honorable Shakil Mohammed was very harsh against the MSM and especially late Sandiru Jagnat. He mentioned that late Sandiru Jagnat had done injustice to a part of the population in 1987. I find it strange that it's now in 2022 that he finds an injustice. But when he needed a party to launch his political career, he found no other party than the MSM of late Sandiru Jagnat. But Mr. Speaker, sir, it's under the same MSM, under the leadership of the same late Sandiru Jagnat, that Honorable Shakil Mohammed started his political career in 1995.
Thank you very much.
C'est lui qui me semble qu'il a la recherche de sa virginité perdue qu'il ne retrouvera jamais. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are called to bring our contribution to the budgetary measures that is being proposed. However, when so much is being done to improve, to empower our women, to improve our health system, our education system, I am really disappointed.
So, Honorable Member, you have to discuss with your whip or deputy whip.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we have discussed with the whip. We are going to address
But I'm not aware of this. I'm not aware of this. How can you do that in my back? So what is the position? What is the status?
Minutes, 5 more minutes.
The honorable members of the Labour Party should learn to appreciate the work that is being done by this government, while their leader is known for showing disrespect to women. Yesterday, when I listened to the intervention of Honorable Nuckcheddy, it was just a personal attack on Honorable Minister Kunjusha. I understand her hard feeling as what Honorable Kunjusha is doing as minister will soon make the population realize that for too long the Labour Party has been fooling the population. She dared to claim the resignation of the Honorable Minister Kunjusha. Honorable Minister Kunjusha, let me remind you, Honorable Member, is an elected member of the constituency number 9, whereas you, vous êtes un candidat repêché. Vous êtes un candidat repêché. Try to get elected first, and then you claim resignation.
What are you doing? So what? One member is debating and you just interrupt him? So what?
It is this government that is coming with measures to promote gender equality, enhance women empowerment, and ensure child protection. Instead of having personal attacks on the Honorable Minister, she should rather have frequent visits in the constituency, and she will find the bridges, the drains, the roads, and the other projects that are being implemented, and some which have already been completed, instead of lamenting that there is no project which is being implemented in constituency number 16. Mr. Speaker, sir, as a caring government, we will do all possible to improve the life of our people. I thank the population for their trust in us. Long live Mauritius. Thank you.